too. Those are on there too. So.
If you need a snack, dig in. But,
Go get 'em.
But thank you and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. All right, so approval of the agenda?
I do have a couple changes with the late recommendation that I shared with the board to hire for this technician position. So added 6.3, the hiring I gave Lush there, which will actually remove my request down in new business for permission to hire, which is 8.3. So those two are gone. And I do need to take 8.8, the memorandum, the MOU about our broadband tower. I need to go ahead and remove that because the county needed to make some changes before we approved that. So we'll go ahead and take that off as well. But with those changes, I ask that the board goes ahead and approves with those amendments.
I make a motion to approve the amendments.
Do we have a
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Her
I
eyes are
have to
delayed.
remember to wait for that.
Wendy is about a 2-second delay, so.
Okay.
No. You want me to raise my hand?
No, you're fine. We'll get through it.
Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Okay.
The agenda.
The agenda.
Agenda's approved.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. The agenda's approved. Now we're ready for patron comments. It's a loud crowd.
It is for those at home. It's kind of a full house, really. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. All right, so no patron comments? We will move along to the board minutes, approval of the board minutes.
Yep, need approval from both sessions, the reorganization and the regular board minutes from January 14th.
I move that we approve those minutes.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And that takes us to special presentations.
We have multiple presentations here, and we're going to work through them because it's good information on all fronts. Our first presentation will be Nelson from SiteLogic. Throughout the past year, we've kind of been working with SiteLogic on and off on some things. Brad and I have had a number of conversations with this crew, and our leadership team at school and teachers and administrators have both met with SiteLogic a couple times, specifically in the last couple of weeks to finish up this facility assessment report that you all have at your disposal to look at when you like. But Nelson's been great to work with. He's going to give you a presentation on their facility assessment. Again, this assessment was not, and he'll share this, was not to point out things are wrong, but give us a plan for the future and how to tackle this with the limited funding and things that we have at our disposal. So I've appreciated this relationship. I think we've all learned a lot from some of the things that they shared. So with that, Nelson, I'll turn it over to you, and you can take over. I want to try to make sure that Cody and Wendy can see this at home, but whenever you're ready, partner.
All right, I appreciate everyone's time here this evening. Nelson Brico, SiteLogic, Program Manager, kind of helping facilitate the process, work with our team of engineers and facility analysts. Cody, he's one of our engineers on the project. He's joining us via Zoom. See if I can advance this. There we go. All right, so hopefully I can get through this in 15 minutes. There's a great deal of information that's very important for the corporation. The books will kind of even accentuate the information that I'll be sharing today. There's a lot more information in there than what I'll be giving you. But today is really more about just providing you with the information. We've spent some time in the facility and really just gathering data. Everything we've done till this point has been just to gather data. We haven't made any decisions or any recommendations on what to do with that information. But it's just a starting point, setting a baseline for what's to come. So just went through the introductions. I'll just highlight the planning process milestones. We'll go through the asset condition assessments and we'll talk about next steps. And if you have any questions, please feel free to interject either during the presentation or at the end. I'm good either way. So we'll just run through the planning process. So we did our initial master planning kickoff meeting in December of 2020. where our facility analysts and engineers and architect spent time walking the facilities, really just to document the existing conditions. We had an ideation session on February 10th. That's where administrative staff from the corporation got with our architects and really just to identify what works well for the corporation, what doesn't, where are some areas, if you were to dream long-term, what are some things that can be improved. And so that the next step kind of from that information, as I mentioned, and the gathering of data from the facility assessments will kind of start the planning process moving forward. And so yesterday we met again with the administrative team on presenting this same information, and so here we are today just presenting it scaled back to the board. So when we look at the assessments, we look at buildings as really maintenance of buildings as a circular process. You don't build a building and it maintains itself. Everything has a life cycle, right? And so we look at the visioning and identify what the corporation's vision is so that we can plan for that. And then we really focus as well on the assessment of your physical, education, and functional needs. I'll take you quickly through that. So we'll start with the physical needs assessment, which is really looking at your existing facilities and assets in their current condition. The first thing we look at is a comprehensive asset assessment, which is really to basically have a report card of all your assets, everything from your rooftop units to your flooring. Really, we say we look at everything from blacktop to rooftop, and we try to categorize everything into 16 different categories. This just gives you an idea of the original build of the facility, and it's kind of hard to see from here, but the orange is the original building age, and then the blue dot there is kind of the average age based on the additions that have taken place over time. And so again, this is just a nice representation, visual representation for you to see. We also, with Brad's assistance, actually Brad's assistance on all of this, he was tremendous and has been tremendous to work with him throughout this process. What we did is we wanted to document kind of just to get an understanding of the different construction types and the different additions that have taken place over the years. And so, if you want to take a closer look at that in your book, but this just kind of gives you a nice snapshot of the different ages of the facility. So we use something called ASHRAE to identify the useful life of equipment. So when does it make sense really to start replacing and looking at planning for replacement of equipment and assets? And so this just gives you an example of a boiler plant, which is your primary heating source for your building. So you can see there a steel water tube boiler should last 24 years if it's hot water, 30 years for steam. So what we did is in this, we rated your assets anywhere from acceptable to danger based on both the age and the current condition of the operation. So we'll start first with the junior high school. So a little bit difficult to see here, but what we did is along the bottom, along the x-axis there, we've got all of the different assets in the corporation. And then along the y-axis, that's the age. You can see what's in blue is the average life expectancy of those assets, and then what's in orange is the actual age of the asset. And what you'll see here, as I transition to this next slide, is
Nelson, just jump in your books, if you're on page 35, these things are laid out if you need to see them a little bit closer. Sorry.
oh, you're fine. So what we did here is we just let the items that have exceeded their useful life kind of pop in red. But you can see for the most part, you're doing a tremendous job of planning and replacing the different assets throughout the corporation. This here is the asset condition chart, and I'm going to click here to kind of bring it a little bit closer. You can see on the left is the facility, the second column is the asset. So for example, you've got for the junior high school, the boilers for the hot water system, and then the asset description, which is you've got three 2017 Airco hot water boilers. And then what you'll see there in orange is, again, it's a little difficult to see from here, but the life expectancy is 25 years. The next column shows the age of when it was installed, which is 2017. And then you'll see kind of in green there, it'll show what the percentage of life has been used. And then to the column right next to that, you see the 21, that's how many years you have remaining on the asset. So again, we did this for every single asset throughout the high school, junior high, and the elementary school. Really to, like I said, to establish a baseline to understand what's the next step or what's the next thing that should be planned for replacement. And so this kind of gives you at a glance just a nice one-pager that shows, based on the different assets throughout the junior high and high school, you can see you've got a lot of the excellent, acceptable, and caution, and very little of the alert and alarm, which again just speaks to the tremendous job that the corporation has been doing with your planning process over time. This is a facility index score, which if you, I guess just in a nutshell, the closer you are to 0%, the in better condition the facility is, and the closer you are to 100% in the red, you know, that's where you start looking at, does it make sense to retrofit an existing facility, or does the cost of replacing the entire facility kind of become closer to the retrofit option? So again, you're doing a tremendous job at the junior high school. Again, we'll just kind of breeze through this as well. Similar information that was collected for Northside Elementary. Again, you can see there's not a tremendous amount of items that are in red. What's in red is mostly going to be things like, you know, you've got some 9x9 ACM tile. You know, you've got some electrical service from 1974. So just things that aren't really impacting necessarily the student environment. It seems like everything that has been done to this date has really been enhancing the student environment in the classrooms and the unit ventilators and the air distribution and those kinds of things. So again, kudos to the corporation in that regard. Similar thing here, I won't spend too much time on that, but you'll see in your books as you take a closer look at that, you'll see the different assets and then the age and then just the existing condition. And I guess one thing I should point is we do also adjust the asset condition based on age. So something could be working great and be older, or something could be brand new and not be working as well. So we adjust for that as well. Again, similar here with the elementary, you've got a lot of the excellent, acceptable, and caution, and very little of the alarm and alert. From a facility condition index score, a little bit less than the, or more, but you know, than the high school, but still right in that middle sweet spot, where you know making renovations to the existing facility is still a very feasible thing to do. We did the same for the maintenance garage. Kind of walk through these. You look at the different assets there. Again, tremendous job with maintaining equipment and replacing equipment over time. And you'll see here, you know, the 27.2, you know, the exterior envelope makes a large percentage of that facility. And so the things that do need to be replaced or getting at the end of their useful life are less value than, you know, like for the HVAC systems and those kinds of things. So that's why you see that number is a little bit better than the other facilities. We did the same for the White House. You can see here you've got quite a bit of, I was told that I might get a chuckle. No, I'm just kidding.
Can we just skip over that page?
Yes, we're going to quickly go through it, but you can see, again, there's definitely not as much, there's a lot more maybe needs in that facility. So the next thing I'll do is I'll just quickly walk through, you know, I don't know how much, you know, time, you know, the board necessarily spends, you know, on the roof and in boiler rooms. So what I'd like to do is maybe just highlight some of your equipment and assets. So this just shows the elementary school. You know, you've got 2 boilers from 2003 and then one that was installed in 2018. So again, just a testament to, you know, your thought process. You've got 2 older boilers. You replaced one to maybe give those other 2 additional life. By carrying some of that load during the shoulder months. So again, just tremendous, you know, foresight into enhancing and prolonging the life of the assets that you've got. You know, just walking through the facilities, what we noticed, again with the many different additions that you've had over time, we did notice, you know, that maybe plugs aren't necessarily weren't designed, you know, back in the 70s, 80s, and for the technology that we have today. So just, you know, potentially adding some additional outlets to enhance kind of the student space. When we look at indoor environment assessment, so we look at things like lighting, the CO2 levels in a space, sound, you know, anything that really contributes to student achievement. And so one of the things that we look at has a big contribution to student achievement is CO2. And what CO2 is, it represents how much fresh ventilation air you're bringing into the classrooms to dilute all the air that we're breathing, right? So CO2 is kind of a direct representation of how much fresh air you're bringing into the space. And as a company, we're very data-driven, and so a lot of the things that we do and recommend are based on the research that's out there to really enhance the student achievement and student environment. And there are reports in there in your books that'll demonstrate a little bit more about that. So I'll just focus on where it says basic activity, just from a CO2 standpoint. You can see the green is good, that's when you're between 600 and the blue is 1,000 parts per million. You can see as your parts per million of CO2 increase, your cognitive performance starts to decrease. So that's why it's extremely important to have good ventilation air in the classrooms. The other thing that we did is we had the staff participate in some indoor environment surveys. And so here you can see questions like, are the lights too dark or too bright? Is the air too humid or too hot? This just gives us a data point so that it's good to always gather information and then scrub through that information through data collecting to ensure that are there really issues? Where are the issues, and how do we address those issues? As an example, one of the things that you'll see in this next slide here. Hang on. I'll get to that in a second. We did measure some CO2 readings in different areas, and what you can see here is right around 12:45 p.m. In the elementary, the room peaked at about 1,230 parts per million. So that's maybe something we can look at in terms of, is the control system operating correctly? What are the parameters that are set? Can we bring that maybe down closer to 1,000? This isn't bad. Can we enhance it, right? And you've got the infrastructure in place to enhance that. So this is a different room that's served by the pod rooftop unit. And you can see that one is pretty much below 1,000 parts per million, which is where you want to be. And it's interesting, you'll see, it starts off low, and as the day goes on and the kids are maybe breathing more, or that room is getting a little bit more use, you start to see the CO2 start to increase. And you can see a kind of a dip right there, either that class was dismissed or something may have taken place. This slide here just kind of gives you an idea of the indoor pollutants and where they come from. You can see inadequate ventilation is a large percentage, over half. Again, data-driven, so there's reports out there that correlate absenteeism and reducing absenteeism with increasing the fresh air in classroom spaces. So you might be wondering, okay, well, what is heating and cooling our spaces, right? So we talk about ventilation, and again, I'm assuming that not too many people are going up on the roof to take a look at things, but this is just a snapshot of what you've got serving the guidance and K.I.S.S room. You've got a couple rooftop units that have been maintained very well and are at the end of their useful life, though. So in terms of from a planning process standpoint, it makes sense to maybe start looking at some of those life cycle changes. This serves the elementary pod area. And again, this is a unit that provides ventilation, heating, and air conditioning to multiple different classrooms. So this chart, again, just kind of a nice snapshot, kind of gives you an idea of the different types of systems that you have. You can see kind of on the bottom there, you've got unit ventilators ranging from 2005 all the way to 2020. And so we just went through and just documented exactly what is in each classroom. You can see kind of in the center there, you've got more air handling units, whereas on the wings, you've got more unit ventilators. So temperature and humidity. So temperature, can you imagine, kind of the longer we're in here and the hotter it starts to get, the less, we're going to want to pay attention. It's no different for students or teachers. So reducing air temperature from 78 to 72 shows an improvement in student performance. We didn't see any temperature swings that drastic here, so you're doing a good job of maintaining those temperatures. We did spend some time investigating the temperature control system. We do understand that there are some concerns or issues, and so what we identified is that there is an opportunity for some retro commissioning, where you would go in and take a look at the systems and really put them through their course to identify where there are deficiencies, what needs to be corrected, and what is it going to take to make those corrections. This just shows a screenshot of your control system, and again, we were just identifying some of the things that to us we're saying, okay, well, this sensor maybe isn't working right, so as we're going through the retro commissioning, we need to identify these things and get them addressed, or at least bring them to the corporation's attention. Again, just similar things with the screenshots. In this, this particular case, looking at, potentially maybe increase in the minimum outside air requirement for a unit ventilator. So those are just the things that we would go through and make sure that we enhance the learning environment. The controls are so important, and and having the front end graphical interface that you have is very powerful, because you could troubleshoot issues, like for example, where you see it shows the computer lab is 68 degrees, it's calling for 72, and there's something going on, it's not allowing enough air to go into that space. So those are the kinds of things that as you're going through the retro commissioning process, you can really dive in and understand, hey, what needs to be done to make this better. Spend too much time on that. I'm a controls geek, so I apologize. I put a little bit. When we look at lighting, one of the things that we saw from the survey in the elementary school was that the lights potentially could be too bright. The corporation did a great job of upgrading all the lighting to LED. And the other thing that you did a great job of is selecting a technology where you can adjust color temperature and even lumen output, which is how much light is going into the space. And so we took some readings just in a couple classrooms just to identify, is it well overlit? It seems to be within standards, but when you go from a fluorescent system that could have depreciated over time to a brand new LED system, you can imagine that it's going to really pop, right? So you are within the I.E.S. standards for classroom space, which is about 50-foot candles. If you do need to reduce that for certain teachers, you always have that capability. So that's an excellent thing that's been done. Again, just exterior lighting, you've converted to LED. When we talk acoustics, 60% of classroom activity is through speech. If I'm here having to speak over something that's pretty loud, it's maybe distracting for me, distracting for you, no different for teachers and students. So what we did is we did take a look at the sound levels in different classrooms. The good thing is this is a ceiling unit ventilator. You want to be between 35 and 50 decibels. You don't have too many ceiling unit ventilators, and more than likely it's due to space constraints why they were implemented. But you can see as you progress to a vertical unit ventilator, which is what you have pretty much throughout the facility, your decibels start to go down, which is a great thing, right? So that enhances the student environment. And then the optimum is where you've got a variable air volume system where it takes the motor out of the classroom and it puts it on the roof or some other central location. And you can further reduce the sound of motors and those kinds of things in the classroom. What I will say is, balancing budget with getting infrastructure upgrades completed, I think you've done a tremendous job with that. So, talk real quick on pathogen mitigation. With COVID, and not just with COVID, but even with the cold and flu virus, there are different ways to handle, whether it's through filtration, humidification, ionization of air. These are just things that the corporation can take into consideration moving forward if it wants to enhance the environment in that regard. Again, those are just further conversations and we can have in the future. The other thing we look at is just from an aesthetic standpoint. Again, the facility is in great shape. You've prioritized the replacement of assets to really focus on the environment of the students. But there is always, through use and this just demonstrates where some weather stripping can be utilized. But anytime you have a door that's opening and closing, you're going to have some wear and tear on weather stripping. So not atypical of anything that we see. But again, we're coming in kind of with a fresh set of eyes, just trying to identify some deficiencies that maybe we don't pay attention to because there are so many more important things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Again, same thing here, just looking at potentially updating doors. But again, this just speaks to the corporation's commitment to allocating those dollars to where they probably matter most. So, and you've got quite a few of these photos as well in your books. The other aspect that we look at is just ADA compliance. And so our architects, as they're walking the buildings, just took a look to see, what is ADA compliant and what isn't. And again, in the book, you'll kind of see some of the areas where you could update with ADA in mind, whether it's just putting new door levers, handles on the doors instead of the knob type. And we looked at interior finishes. Again, just trying to plan for the future of what areas really could use some carpet replacement or tile replacement, and which ones are looking pretty good. Same thing with the tile, and what we've got here is just a map. And so we looked at cabinetry and all those kinds of things. Again, just collecting as much data so that we can start to prepare for kind of the plan moving forward. So what we did is, after walking through the entire facility, we kind of put a grade to the different interior finishes, whether it's ceilings or floors. And then we also color coded it to identify these are the different types of flooring that you have and the different types of ceilings that you have, and then what's the condition that they're in. From a technology standpoint, we looked at things like your clock systems, your public announcement system, the age of that. We looked at things like your fire alarm system and the age and condition of that. There was just a comment on some internet connection in some areas. Again, just things that it's all data, and we would just want to confirm, is it accurate, is it not accurate, how do we approach it if it is accurate, right? And then from a facility optimization standpoint, we also want to make sure that you're optimizing the energy use in your facilities. What you'll see here is you're spending about $141,000 in electric, $26,000 in heating, and then the least utility is water and sewer, about $18,000. And then off to the right there, you can see we kind of break that down by energy use per square foot. So you're at 18 kb2 a square foot on electricity and 35 for natural gas. What I will say is we also benchmarked this against Energy Star, and to get an Energy Star rating you have to be at 75, and the facility was at 78. So you're already at an Energy Star rating in the facility, so that's a plus. And then we look at the educational and functional needs. As I mentioned, we did have an ideation session that really revolves more around not just the existing assets of the facility, but more long-term vision programming. What does it take to kind of go to the next level? And so I won't spend too much time going through the staff surveys, but we had quite a few people respond to the staff surveys, and this kind of gives you a breakdown by what their title is or what they do during the day, which areas they teach. And so we look at things like learning spaces and programming. Again, I won't go into too much detail, but you can see from a classroom adequacy, everything that we saw was well above average, which is, again, a great testament to the corporation. So we asked things about safety, security, and flow. Again, you'll see protection against students was high on the list at 3.8. We asked questions about activity spaces. High on the list there was general storage, which is not atypical, right? We all need a little bit more storage. School restrooms, quantity of restrooms and quality restrooms were high in terms of the satisfaction. Focuses on perceptions, again, just how the community might perceive these different aspects of your corporation versus what the staff does. And I'll say, I see a lot of pride, even during the ideation session, a lot of pride from the staff and teachers in, how they just embrace the students, and just, it seems like a very tight community and tight family, which is amazing to see. So again, I apologize, that was kind of a data dump, a lot of information. I probably could have spent 2 hours up here and probably bored you guys to death, but just want to talk through the next steps. So as I mentioned, this was really just about gathering data, gathering information, and now what do we do with that information? And so the next step really is going to be working with Mr. Black and just prioritizing and understanding, hey, what is really the next step? What does that future master plan look like? And one of the things I'll want to share is a video that kind of shows after all this information has been kind of brought back, and we put what we call rough order of magnitude costs together so you can start to plan after we start to prioritize. Just a tool that we have where you can kind of take all that information, and it's real-time, cloud-based. It's a dashboard where you can really start to plan for the future as you start to look at some of those replacements of assets. So that's to come. April/May is kind of when we hope to start to be able to prioritize and put some budget numbers on those items, and then really just be able to start making decisions at that point and workshop and if that's the route that we go. So with that, does anybody have any questions?
That's a lot of information.
Oh, man.
But it's
No, you're
wonderful.
fine.
I'm sorry.
You
It's
did
all,
great.
no,
It's great.
it's good to know.
So,
And I think it's important. I've met with their financial team and Baker Tilly already to look at our forecasting, our debt service options, remaining tax neutral or doing projects that may raise our tax a little bit in the future. So that will all work into this conversation over the next couple of months. Andy and I have talked about this next CARES Act dollars, talking about recommissioning or
Right.
HVAC.
Yep.
Perfect opportunity to use some of these federal grant dollars to go through and make sure we're optimizing our HVAC. I mean, that's exactly what the funds are used for. So SiteLogic will help us get us partnered with the right companies to come in and do that for us. So that's great information. I'm glad that our building principals got to see it yesterday. And if anything, I know later Brad's leaving us, but I told him, I said, if anything, you're getting sent out the door with an A on your grade card. So
Absolutely.
job well done there, and they definitely proved that and spoke very highly of the work that's been done. So I encourage you to ask questions of Nelson. He's a great asset for us. Wealth of knowledge. The SiteLogic team in general has been pretty incredible to work with. Good people, easy to talk to. So if you don't have questions now, something pops up when you're going through the book, email me, and this team will respond pretty quickly.
Great, thank you.
Yep, my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to continuing the relationship.
Good.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Nelson. Yeah, take that with you. Take your second one. SiteLogic owes us a clicker, Cody. Can you document that for me?
You mean a pen one?
Cody, I know you were quiet, but thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for letting me join in. That was great.
All right. Okay. Nelson's gonna go back to his 11, 9, 7, 5, and 18-month-old child. Is that right?
8 months.
8 months, sorry. So he's got to drive back to Michigan, but we do appreciate you coming down, Nelson, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
All right, team, well, we will
Always the one, right?
proceed here, transition, let Mr. Winkle come up as soon as I figure to find his presentation.
Good one.
There it is, okay.
Hey, guys. Well, actually, I can do it without the slides really. They can take a look at them later if they've got access to them. Here's what I would say. We went on spring break, last spring break, and we really never came back physical until August. And I have to tell you that I've been very thankful that we've been in person since August. We had a little hiccup there for about a week, which actually caught myself in that as well. But we've come out of that just fine. I'll tell you when to hit it.
Okay.
Go ahead and hit that first one. There really haven't been any surprises except good surprises. Okay, and I'll just say it like that. We knew the kids were going to come back in. Our goal was to maintain the kids in reading and math. Now, you say, well, what about science, social studies? Yes, that's important too, but there's a lot of reading in that as well. So really our focus on these numbers will just be reading and math. Numbers were down initially when the kids came back. Now these particular numbers represent really from the beginning of this school year to mid-year, because we're about 2/3 in now. Right. But this is right up to just right after Christmas. We came back and did another round of assessments.
And
So that's what you're looking at.
Kind of explain like the grade equivalency and kind of what you're looking for.
Well, and we're looking for kids even at like mid-year right now. You'd look for, first grade, you'd want them to be about 1.5, going to 2. Second grade, you'd want them about 2.5, headed to 3. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea. The GE is grade equivalent. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, you want them at, say a typical second grade, first grader right there, you'd want them at 1.0. Well, that didn't happen. Okay, so when you send young kids home like that and they're trying to maintain, it's very difficult. So we just know that our current first and second graders, which are going to be second and third graders next year, are going to have a lot of extra reading and extra reading help, and we are making sure that's going to happen. The first really good surprise is in math. I mean, we really thought math might be a big area where the kids had lost quite a bit. That wasn't the case. The rigor of VMI And if you remember right, we made that switch. The rigor of ME is real, and this proves it, okay? Our math is really ahead of our reading.
Which is unusual.
Very unusual. But if you think about kids, you know, it's really hard to get them to read when they're at home. And then we give them, you know, we want you to read an extra 20, 30 minutes. Well, a kid's gonna play the extra 20, 30 minutes if they're not, you know, watch closely. So, but now I will say that we've had good parent support as well. So that, you know, it's just the nature of the way it is. And I would say to anybody, from an elementary perspective, kids have to be in school. That's just, there's no question about it. The best place for kids to be in the elementary is in school. And if nothing else, that's what this is proving. Now, the numbers we're seeing right now, they're showing progress. They're closing gaps. They really are. But the real target for next year is going to be our first graders going to second going to third. And we already know that. We know who the kids are. We know what they're going to need. And our team of reading specialists are already starting to make those plans. So overall, I've been really pleased. Nate put the numbers and charts together. Wow, what a great asset he's been through all this, digging into the numbers. And Andy was the same way. You know, it must be these young people. They're really into the numbers, and it's powerful. It's powerful information. So I've been pleased with the staff. They've worked really hard. It's been very unusual. It's not been normal. You know, I've been doing this a long time, and this is really not normal. And I cannot thank the staff enough about how they've made that transition and how they've made it work. Aaron, the leadership team there, I just can't say enough. And while I have the floor right now, Tim, I know I'm getting close. I'm probably over that. But here's what I'm going to say.
Take next couple.
Here's what I'm going to say. I appreciate that, and I will anyway. Thank you. The most impressive thing is not really what's happened in the classroom, so to speak. It's the things like kids getting into the building, kids getting out of the building, take care of families, the lunch in classrooms, the breakfast in classrooms. The cafeteria staff has been nothing short of magic. Unbelievable. Out of all the things I could lose sleep over, it's just those other things. I know teachers are going to teach. I know they are. And I know how they teach. And I know what they're doing in the classrooms. But you just don't know about the other things. And those things, they have been amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I can't say enough for those folks. Brad, I'm going to tell you, you know, talking about the numbers and seeing these charts and the bar graphs and everything else and where things are, it's because of the things that he's done, in addition to, you know, things, you know, you've given him permission at the board. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that our buildings are in great, you know, the shape that they're in. So yesterday was eye-opening, seeing the numbers from Nelson, and it was good stuff. So those books are pretty good stuff as well. So anyway, our plan is to continue to close the gaps in reading. You know, math is really where we need to be right now. So any questions you have, let me know.
Board have any questions for the elementary team? Yeah, and if you look at those numbers, and we knew we were gonna be behind, and the biggest thing, look at the growth. I mean, when you make it
Growth's
up
good.
8 months worth of work and 4 months, even with all the distractions going on.
Oh, it's been
We're
amazing.
getting there, but it's not gonna happen
No,
this
okay.
year. It's gonna take this year next to get them back where they need
Yep.
to be.
Like I said, our big focus is the current first graders and current second graders.
So
How about summer schools? Are there any plans?
That's what I
on
was
that?
gonna
Yes,
ask you.
yes,
We're gonna ask.
we're looking at summer school right after Memorial Day for looking at from 8 to noon, at least for 8 days. We know that, you know, of course, kids have to have a summer too, but we've also talked about possibly a couple weeks before school starts. That we don't have a plan for that yet, but we do have a plan for right after school, Tim. Kids would come back after Labor Day, and then we'd keep them 8 instructional days, 4 hours a day, and then, and those would be targeted students, okay? So those are kids that we know that need that extra help. And really looking at the math numbers, we could just say, look, that's 4 hours of reading, but 4 hours of reading and intense reading in a small setting, flat wear you out. So there'll be some math instruction in there as well. So,
Which is a little different. We've typically always done reading instruction, remediation for summer school.
Yeah.
It's gonna look a little different this summer.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep,
No.
yep, that's
And
all in
hopefully
plan.
Good
Book
job.
fairs next
Thank you.
Job, Mike.
Okay,
All right, thank you, Mr. Winkle.
thanks, board, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yep. Wendy, get well, we miss you.
Thank you.
I wish you guys do, and next year we'll get those book fairs rolling again.
All right, girl, we're not worried about that right now.
Hey, Wendy, can you confirm that you see the junior, senior high slideshow now?
And since
Yes.
Mark monopolized all the time, we'll take 30 seconds and we'll be done. It's like, we'll let him go first.
Mr. Adams, you want me to run this? You wanna do it?
I can do it, I guess, if I don't mess it up.
Yeah, there is, my screen's showing the questions
Okay,
from Mark.
hold tight.
Okay,
No, I can see
Mark
them.
looked like he lost some weight.
He's half the man he was.
I found
Yeah.
what he lost.
Mr. Adams said he's found what he lost. Can you see
Gotta
the,
find more of it.
can you
too.
see the junior, senior high now, Wendy?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
There you go. All right, Mr. Adams.
Okay,
Mr.
we'll
Levis.
first start with, we'll kind of bounce back and forth. The semester F-list information and stuff, kind of give you a comparison where we're at since we had some virtual kids and we had hybrid obviously, and when we had everything in between, it seems like. The biggest thing I think you can take away from that is we had 25% or right at 25% that went virtual at the start of the school year. Looking at the data, that was our biggest weakness on terms of Fs. I think they come up with about 61% of the total Fs for the semester. So we worked hard at the 9 weeks to get kids back in. We got it down to about 12%, and I think that's going to show this semester that those kids that struggle for whatever reason will do better because they're back in person. Now those 40 or so kids that are still virtual now, knocking it out of the park, no doubt about it. They are thriving. Some of them didn't do well last year, are doing awesome this year, so they found the niche there. Looking at it also, we knew 7th grade would struggle because that's a struggle year anyway, because that's a big transition from 6th grade to kind of where your hands held a little bit, and then you're kind of pushed off into the big C, so to speak. That's always a struggle year. It shows even more this year with what schedule we were on. And that'll show later up, I think, in some of the data. Questions on that? As just kind of quick overview. Like I said, the virtual piece was our biggest struggle, I think, with some of the kids, and we worked hard to get some of them back in, which happened.
And I would add too, that when we switched the look of our hybrid schedule from the, whatever it was, where it was blocks of days at a time, and then we went to the every other day model, I think students and teachers both, I think, appreciated that, and I think performed better because of that switch as well. So I think that made a big difference for our in-person kids. With credit recovery, obviously we prioritize seniors. You know, we've got to get them across the finish line. So lots of meetings with seniors, lots of phone calls, lots of meetings with parents, you know, just targeting those kids that we know, you know, need this credit recovery here to get them where they need to be. So, you know, we're working through that. We do have a summer school plan in place as well. What is it, 16 days of,
I think it's
I think
16
we're at
days.
16
Yep,
days
right
of
at it.
classes there as the semester ends. We've got some teachers already committed and on board. We've got others that we think are pretty much going to be on board to teach. We're going to offer phys ed, which I think is a good thing. Try to get some of those, you know, incoming freshmen through that class, so that frees up their schedule then a little bit better when the school year starts. We're going to offer world history or U.S. history, math, language arts, driver's ed, I think is a go as well. That'll be helpful there with that. I do want to say that this alternative school, and I wasn't there for the ground floor of it. I know Neil and Aaron and Bruce and Brandy and Keith and, you know, some of those people worked really hard to put that together. And I'm very pleased with how that's going. I know Brandy's already got several kids across the finish line, kids that just, to be quite honest, would not make it in the general education setting. And because of her, and you know, if you see her, or I give her a big thumbs up. She's working wonders back there with some of these kids, and you know, getting them across the finish line. We've got a queue of students lined up that we would like to put in there. It's a lot for one person, you know, big task for her to take on, but when she gets one across the line, we've got another one ready to roll, and we've just, you know, added a few more even within the past couple of weeks here to her program back there, and that's really working wonders at alternative school back there. So I've been pleased, you know, in that regard. So credit recovery, it's a process, but we're doing what we can do. Yep. So.
Probably the biggest surprise is, to build on what Mark said, was our math scores from our STAR testing. I mean, especially since we know we've had a turnover in math teachers there for a couple years, and last year 7th grade wasn't such a good experience. And being virtual and being out since March, I thought our math scores will just be awful. If you look at the 8th grade, the target right there for mid-year is 8.5, and for all 8th graders, we're at 8.5. Now, there's some subgroups we got to work on, and we know that. We'll start hitting those subgroups. But for the target of the entire 8th grade class to be right on grade level in the 8th grade, and I think volumes from what they did for VEMI and what the new teacher is doing down there as well. And I put the Hispanic ethnicity on there because that is a target area that we've been flagged by the state that we need to focus on, and even in math in 8th grade, they're above where they need to be, or right at where they need to be. So hopefully we'll get off the flagged list there. 7th grade, they were out last spring, or spring a little bit. Their numbers aren't as solid, but they're very close to being overall right on target where they need to be. So that's very encouraging with our math scores, because I didn't think that would be the case at all, because usually math is behind, and it's such a thing that builds and builds and builds that not being in person I thought would really hurt us, and pretty pleased now. Now reading, again, it gets back to our kids weren't reading, I don't think, and last spring, there's no doubt there was so much going on that wasn't even the thing we thought about. So we got some concerns there that we have to work on. We're below grade level quite a bit, and there's some target areas that we'll start working on there. So that's a concern, but it's not something I don't think that we can't target and get fixed.
PSAT, SAT data is there. Basically what we did is we compared the same group of kids who took the test their 10th grade year last year before the pandemic versus this year back in October. And the numbers are actually pretty good. Our lowest kid scored a 780 on the SAT, and our highest kid scored an 1140. And then our average there in that range was 998, so it's on the higher end of the average range for us, which is good. It shows there off to the left and what their projected range should be, and then like I said, you can compare, you know, reading in 10th versus reading in 11th, and math in 10th and 11th, and then where they're projected to score. So I was pleased that, you know, we're a little bit below the national average. We don't have the national average on there. I think it's close to 1100 or just a little under. But I think, you know, I think we're, at least for our range we're targeted to be, we're on the higher end of that. So
the one thing, and it's not to fault anybody, because we got Avid and we push testing and SAT and all that, and because we can give them the test for free based on their demographics and all that, across the state we're one of the higher schools that give percentage-wise tests to kids. So that also skews our average, but that's not an excuse. That's just, we got to keep that in mind. I mean, we did have someone score 1140. We may even have higher than that. This, from when I pulled this data, they may not have everything reported, but we've got some good things going on there. So.
And then with just the data observation, we already kind of saw our math and reading scores, and then our SAT and where that is. I think maybe to tackle that, and we're going to try, we actually just kind of discussed this a lot today, this morning with Bruce as well. And, you know, with staff changing over the years and programs changing over the years, you know, these are things that we've done in the past that we're going to try to bring back. I think we've got it worked out where next year's 8th graders, we're going to have some remediation time built into the schedule, math and language arts wise, where, you know, we can, you know, work on these, you know, some of these skills, these math and language arts skills with the 8th grade, and make that a permanent part of their schedule. We've got teachers that have the ability within their schedules to teach those remediation type of courses, just to help with test scores and just to help with, star reading, star math, iLearn, all the testing stuff. So I think it'll be good, and they'll be able to have both. There'll be a semester each, a semester of language arts remediation and then a semester of math remediation. So I think that'll really do our kids good, and I know it's, like I said, it's something we've done in the past that we've had a desire to bring back into the schedule, and I think it's going to work out for next year. So I think that'll help.
And then I think it gets voted on later, or at least discussed later. These are new pathways that are coming about because the state, in their wisdom, and the Office of Workforce Learning and Work-Based Learning and all that, decided we need yet a change again for like the third year in a row. So, and that's going to affect funding. So to get us on track for this incoming freshman class, instead of the old intro classes, they're going to call them principles of whatever, business, ag, computer and informatics, and radio and TV, because those are the pathways that we've been focusing on. So to get our kids on track, give them opportunity on track, because they have to have 6 credits over the 4 years to get a pathway, and since there's no more I-STEP test, this becomes, in essence, what they need to do to graduate. The other one is if we get enough interest and you agree with offering it, maybe be student media. It's kind of stuff with yearbook, publicizing the school, not just yearbook, but we may go digital with stuff. It's a course that can kind of also add to their academic core 40 option as an elective arts class.
Just a journalism.
Just a journalism type class, because that can also kind of go with radio and TV and things, and kids like to write and promote, and those are things we can work together on. So that is an option we thought about, at least seeing if there's interest in.
I like that.
And then, just a couple highlights, you may have already seen them, that we promoted out. The Indiana Principals Association started a new program where they recognize next year seniors or inspiring juniors that are doing well and rising stars. And we were able to nominate a few people, and they did get selected there. So I think there was 1,100 or so in the state. So that's a pretty good honor, I think, for us to have some that get selected for that. And then, of course, our DECA program just got, for the 9th year in a row, certified in TP. And Hunter and Emily Livingston and Hunter Reagan there kind of wrote that program and put that together for selection. And then Apache gave Addington and Kyle Buckingham put that together. And they took that to the next level. That's kind of, I think, maybe that's a year or two old thing, but yeah, they did take it to the next level and continued that tradition there. So there's some good things going on there.
Wonderful.
And then if you have any questions.
I do have a question.
Okay.
I know with COVID and everything, you can't do the, like, Reed Hospital thing, but once this is over.
Right.
Are you gonna add that class back in?
A lot of that's going to depend on if they're going to allow us to offer it.
Right.
So they've not reached out back to us yet, because I think
Right.
they still got a lot of restrictions.
Oh, yes.
If
Oh, yes.
they ever come to us
Once it's
again,
over.
and when it's over and they say we'd like to partner again, we'll partner with that, because I think we got a lot of kids interested in healthcare too.
Yeah, it was disappointing with,
Yes,
well.
I know,
we
I
didn't do
think
it this year,
there
so.
were some people signed up, and then all
Oh,
this
yeah.
hit, and they said no, which I understand.
Which I get it, totally,
but
yeah.
I think it's a good opportunity for some of our kids
That's
to
neat,
be able
yeah.
to do that. Because I think that would be another pathway, if we can find a way to staff it and fund it, that
Mm-hmm.
we got to offer our kids into the medical field.
And just real quick, and I know we're out of time. We're also, if COVID showed us anything, it's this path down this virtual way is, at least at the high school level, something that I don't think is going to go away. I think if anything, it's just going to continue to grow and expand. And we've got online schools opening up all over the place. And I think we'd be a little foolish or naive if we, just put that on the back burner and didn't really think about that. So we've actually got a team of teachers now. Mr. Jones is kind of spearheading that, and we're sort of exploring the whole digital technology and creating online classes, and maybe using that for some credit recovery in lieu of Play-Doh, or or having kids being able to take those classes for credit, things along that nature. So I think I like where we're at with that too. I think we've got a lot of innovative minded teachers in place that are looking forward to taking on that challenge as well. So
Any other questions?
Hey, update on scheduling process for the board, kind of where we're at. I know
We're going to
behind
start.
because we have to be behind because everything going on.
Everything that's going on. I believe, and we're going to confirm this, I think tomorrow, March the 8th, we're going to meet with incoming freshmen during the day and their parents at night. And the week before, we're going to start hitting everyone else.
Yeah.
I think Bruce has got to work it out with Mark and the 6th grade teachers, come talk with the 7th grade students and them. But next week or two, and hopefully by spring break, we've got everyone signed up, and then we can look at numbers and kind of see what the schedule may start looking like after spring break.
And I don't make any, it's not, the data's not roses and rainbows, and we get that. I mean, there's specifically some subgroups that we
Yes.
know that we've got to pay attention to. Our EL numbers are not what we want, but we've hired a staff member, I mean, we've got to start investing because that's our population. It's changing dramatically, and we've got to really pivot to meet the needs, but I appreciate you guys, great data. I mean, what all the admin team put together. That data board's back there, so as we produce goals with our guiding coalition and the board over the next couple of months for how we want to rebound after COVID, what's 21-22 going to look like, that information's there for anybody to review, be very transparent, but it shows us what we need to work on. But so I appreciate you guys putting it together as well.
It is somewhat encouraging. I think it could have been a lot worse than what it was, honestly. I really do. So.
Something happened those 2
What I-
months. Go ahead, Wendy.
What I appreciate is that as soon as you guys saw, kids struggling, you weren't afraid to bring those, convince those parents to bring those kids back in and pivot, and you guys have it a lot harder down there with the hybrid schedule, but your team always goes above and beyond, and just like the north side on trying to, reach those kids that are working remotely from home. We're blessed with an amazing school, administrators and teachers and staff, so don't be too hard on yourselves.
Well,
Just
they went after it there in December when we knew what was happening with our virtual kids and how well they were not performing. And they probably had some very uncomfortable conversations with a number of families, but they got a lot of them back in the door, which is exactly what we needed, so.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Thank you, guys. All right, I know we knew that was gonna take a little bit of time, but I hope it was information that the board appreciated having at their
So
disposal.
worthwhile, sure. Okay, so we are down to action items,
Yes, ma'am.
claims approval.
Okay, move to accept claims number 6972 through 7022, and payroll claims number 223.
Make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? None? So the claims are approved. Everybody gets paid. Field trips.
We do have a field trip request on here, and Laura spoke with me. This is a trip that we did a couple years ago. This is long-term planning. Again, a lot of things can change, but in order for families to start planning for this trip in 2022, again, that's a year from this June, she would like to take a group to Costa Rica again. So it's just asking if the board approve that request.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll make that.
Okay.
Rhonda,
Second.
Wendy.
Yep, whoever.
So is Wendy the second then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Now, what do we do if things are still close to how they are now? I mean, what happens on this field trip? Surely we're gonna relook at it?
Yep, and there's no financial loss if we start fundraising and book the date. That's part of the travel plan, so yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, good question.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Personnel consent agenda, Mr. Black?
A number of items here that I'd like to recommend for employment, but the couple that I'd like to recognize are with us. First of all, I'd like to recognize Brad and his years of expertise and gaining knowledge for Randolph Eastern. He'll be leaving us March 5th, and later I'm going to ask for him to come back, or ask the board to allow him to come back in some ways over the next year. But thank Brad for his service. he's done a good job for us, there's no doubt. I mean, it's SiteLogic, we started the meeting, with a feather that goes in his cap for a lot of things that he and his team have done, the last 19 years. And I wish him nothing but the best. I'm excited for him to get away while he has some health. He can go out there and take care of the list that Bev has for him. I'm sure it's lengthy. But Brad, thank you. We appreciate you and everything you've done. And to couple with that, I'd like to thank, Jeremy's here with us. I've caught myself referring to him as the new Brad. I don't know what, but he'll be stepping into Brad's big shoes here. Jeremy's been with us as a mechanic, hard worker, has proven himself to Brad. I know that when we were going through applications and Brad learned that Jeremy applied, he was excited. We went through the interview process with Tim and Linda joined us in that, and we thought Jeremy rose to the top of that group. Testament to the kind of person Jeremy is. He got the day off of Frank Miller on Tuesday. And Brad called him and he pushed snow here all day, kind of without even being hired for this role, but to learn some of the ropes. So I'd like to welcome Jeremy. At the same point, Jeremy, we did get you lined up with your shirts. Linda's got them. She's taking care of you. That was his only request during the interview, is that we hook him up.
Some nifty shirts.
Some nifty shirts, but
Two nifty shirts.
All right, thank you.
Wear them with pride.
I definitely will, thank you.
But Jeremy, welcome to the team. We're excited to have you, and I'm just thankful that you got a chance to work with Brad here daily for the next couple of weeks, and definitely as a resource in the future. So I just ask that the board take all those on. Also in the back are the coaching, all the coaching things that I shared with you a week or so ago. I've kind of lost track for spring coaches. It's easier for me to attach that additional sheet and type all those names in, so I'm just asking that the board consider all of those. And then we got a retirement as well. Robin Rohr, 34 years, my third grade teacher. Still a very dynamic teacher. She teaches at a very high level. That's a loss for our corporation. But again, she's got her health and she's going off to enjoy retirement. And knowing her, she'll find herself some things to get into. So I'm happy for her. I wish her nothing but the best. But just have to ask that the board accept all those personnel issues together if they would. Are there any questions, I guess?
No, I'd just like to again tell Brad how much we've appreciated you, how much you're part of this family. You may be not employed here, but it doesn't matter. You're still part of this family.
Thank you.
You always will be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have a motion for these personnel items to be adopted?
I'll make a motion. We accept all the personnel items as written.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And we're into old business.
Just a couple of updates since we were last together. Our broadband tower's been constructed. They were supposed to be here on Monday this week to start hanging wireless broadband, but they deferred due to the blizzard, or snowstorm, not a blizzard. People from 78 really correct me when I say that. So from the big snowstorm, they didn't want to climb that 180-foot tower and start hanging things, so they're going to be back. I think it's pushed us back a couple weeks, first week of March, right, Blake?
Hopefully beginning of March.
So.
First week.
But we're progressing. Plans come along. We need them here to get us going. We do have a ribbon cutting scheduled for March 4th. Have invited a number of people from around the state to attend, government officials, folks from Randall County United to attend that ceremony, because I know on some of our Facebook posts, I saw someone said, welcome to 2021 Union City, but this is a big deal for rural country, rural Union City, rural Randall County, because broadband's an issue. I mean, I've sent 2 different hotspots to Mark Winkle's house just to see if we can find, and he can't do anything with anything we've sent out there. So he's in not having wireless high-speed access in our homes is a reality, whether we like that or not, and this is going to be an attempt to fix that. So it is progressing. Like I said, I would love for members of the board to be there on the 4th. I'll send a new invitation to that when the time gets a little closer. But Blake, anything else to add on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on and stuff we're figuring out, and I appreciate the help that you guys have provided for our department as we kind of figure out what this all looks like and how it's gonna work and the additional load that it's gonna provide. So I'm optimistic, and I think it's gonna be pretty cool. And working with the county and everybody else and the different county teams, I think it's gonna be good.
A lot of hard work went into this, Andy, Blake. The tech team's gonna get a lot of extra pressure, but that's why we brought in some help. Somebody to help turn a screwdriver, take some load off of Rusty and Phil, so they can figure this out. Right, Phil? Next item I have, does the board have questions about the broadband tower? No. Next item I have just COVID-19 update. I think we've been out of school all week. When we went away last week, we had 2 kids in quarantine, which is incredible. I believe they're up, so right now, to my knowledge, we don't have anybody impacted by COVID-19,
Awesome.
which is pretty amazing considering where we were in October, November, December. So our COVID numbers look really good. 7th and 8th grade were supposed to come back this week. Mother Nature said no, so we'll get that going when they come back next week, and then our high school will be all in on March 1st. So that's coming. We're getting back to some type of normal around Randolph Eastern. That's exciting.
Great.
That's all I have as far as updates.
Okay. New business.
First item there, I enjoy bringing these items to you, and anytime it says grant, I know that Andy's hands were all over it. He's got us another $1,500 mini grant from Purdue. This will help fund part of our STEM curriculum. Andy, do you have anything specifically that, I know you've told me, but where these funds were going?
Yeah, first off, I'd like to thank Purdue University, and what they do is they provide a micro grant. These micro grants range from $1,000 to $2,000, depending on what you need. We were able to obtain grant funding last year from NMAC. What we did last year was we were able to purchase a 3D printer. It was actually a $2,000 3D printer that we have in our engineering department. So that's actually Brittany Osborne, and she's actually been using that. And to couple with that, we've actually got this new grant. I only asked for $1,500 this year, but what we have is a 3D scanner. So and then so basically what this does is we can put this 3D scanner on an iPad Pro, scan an inanimate object, so you can actually scan by phone, for example. You take this, scan the phone, and based on that scanned image, you can convert that to the 3D printer, and that would actually print out a plastic phone, if you will. So it's limitless. It's pretty neat. I haven't had my hands on the technology yet, but with Blake and our technology department, as well as Brittany, we're diving into some uncharted territories. It's exciting. It's exciting for the kids, and to think that you can you can take a picture of something and then just print that out right there. It's incredible. So I'm excited about it. But once again, it wouldn't be possible without Purdue University.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep, so I just asked that the board approve that mini grant from Purdue University.
Make a motion to approve the grant.
Well, thankfully.
Rhonda and Wendy. Rhonda and Wendy?
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next item there is I've asked the board to give us the ability to bring Brad back in a consulting role. Really, it's more of a friend of the corporation role and a wealth of knowledge. It's important to support Jeremy as we transition. I mean, 19 years of somebody being here, you're transitioning. It gives him the support and a peace of mind if he needs to call Brad to come up. If we have a boiler go down, we better call Brad and have him come up and help us walk us through it. Now, we'll get through a lot of those things and Jeremy will learn on the fly. Brad's not gonna be here every day. We're not gonna call him every day. But he's agreed to come back and help us when we need help. I talked to him about playground equipment this summer. We've got brand new playground equipment. He's the person with the knowledge on putting those piers in the ground, so he could come up and help Jeremy get it started, and then he'll be on his way back to that honey-do list that he has at home to take care of. So I don't think it's honey-do list. I think he has his own list.
Yeah. He hasn't consulted me for anything yet.
But I just ask that the board allow us to call Brad back at an hourly rate throughout the rest of the calendar year as needed to support Jeremy in this transition, so.
Okay, we need a motion for that, please, for that
I'll
agreement.
make the motion, and thank you, Brad, for being willing to help us out.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Bev abstained. Yeah. Good. Awesome.
Motion carries.
8.3, we've removed with the hire of Gabe up above. 8.4 is the request for the new course offerings that Mr. Adams shared. And again, those have to be approved by the board. And just so you know, we'll bring the summer school list to the March board meeting for the board to approve them. But
Okay.
we're trying to figure out some of the personnel for some of those courses, so it'll be on the March meeting. But we do need to approve those course offerings.
I make a motion to approve the new courses.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is the approval of our food procurement membership with ESC. Just as we have to actually be a part of procurement per our last audit, but it's a good way for us to save some money on food purchases, bread and milk specifically, so.
So moved. I'll make that motion to accept the food procurement.
Okay,
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
next item here is the approval of our employee handbook. Worked with Linda for, I don't know, a couple weeks going through our handbook. Again, she's the wealth of knowledge when it comes to everything HR and personnel. Made a couple changes. One, to assist our bus drivers, allowing them to use some personal sick days and with the e-learning days. I mean, they take a hit, and this allows them to do that. Another change that I know we've talked with them about in the past is putting a probationary period in for hourly employees before they can take days, or before they earn days off. So that'll be in place in the handbook as well. So I hope the board, if you had any questions, please ask. But we went through it many, many times, right? Linda corrected me many times, so.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the non-certified handbook.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
No, the bus drivers will appreciate that.
Yes, they will. It was topic of conversation last Friday.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful to say it was coming. That's all I know.
Has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Next item there is an updated MOU with the city concerning our school resource officer position. Andy and Jan had to work closely to really refine the numbers because the grant, I'll say police from I'm drawing a blank, Andy, on
Homeland Security?
Homeland Security, yeah. Really tightened the screws on the reporting on this, so that we got really get into the payroll, pay stubs for how we report this. Instead of just giving us $20,000 like they did in the past with the MOU, we actually have to supply them with pay stubs. So Andy and Jan have worked quite a bit to refine this and just ask that the board approve it. An update on our SRO, she's getting close. She's doing her field training, which she has to do before she can be cut loose on her own. I think we're 2 to 3 weeks out before we'll start seeing her in the office daily. But they come through every day, multiple times a day with her training officer when she's on duty, so.
Good. So you need an approval for the MOU?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to approve the MOU with the, city. And
I'll second.
second.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
And again, removing 8.8, we'll table that for next board meeting.
So review of reports.
I shared budget reports with the board. Off to a pretty good start. Just a quick, I know we get asked about how our athletics are doing. I guess for lack of better words, we're holding the line. When this all started, I told Mike no purchases. We're not buying uniforms or anything. We're just going to kind of stay status quo. He's held the line there, so we've not made money like we have in the past, but we haven't lost money, which is a good thing. Budget targets for January, we're in pretty good shape, but it's early. The biggest thing there is our ADM. The second count day was February 1st. We were actually up 3 students, and I went back 5 years and couldn't find a time that we increased from our September to February. We typically decrease because we're transient, a lot of our population leaves. But we actually are the only school that I know of, definitely in our county, that increased our numbers in that time frame, which will help our funding sources from the state. So it's encouraging. There's some folks gravitating here, which is very good for Randolph Eastern. So
Absolutely.
that's all I have as far as reports, unless anybody from the board has questions.
I think the word's out on us. Great place to send your kids for school.
All right.
Absolutely.
We're always accepting new students, always.
Always. Corporation department comments. Junior, senior high school comments?
That should actually say
Yeah,
Randolph
elementary,
Eastern staff
yep.
comments. I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry.
I don't know either. Superintendent comments.
Just one thing, obviously with this week and the weather, school cancellations are the hot topic right now, and it's been a tough week. It's not a decision I ever make lightly. We were out 6 weeks in last March and April and May where we were out for COVID, and we learned some things about what we're capable of. I'll make it very clear, I want to be in school. E-learning is not our preference at all. But I'm thankful that we have it, and I'm thankful that our staff does it at the level that they do it, because it gives me some peace of mind. I struggle with those decisions in the morning when it's on the fence. Brad has seen it probably in my text messages. I just go back and forth trying to make that decision, but I'm always, because I know we have a pretty good option, not the best option, a pretty good option of e-learning, I'm going to err on that side of school student safety. I'm just not going to roll the dice, because I'm not sure that on my conscience that's something I ever want to deal with.
Right.
And it can happen anytime. I understand that, but it's tough. But I'm so thankful for having e-learning as an option and not the thought of tagging it on at the end of the school year when it would be even less productive. So I appreciate the board support. You all have been awesome. You don't really question, maybe in your head sometimes you do, but I appreciate your support and making those decisions too, because it's difficult. And for every superintendent this week, it's hard. You win some and you lose some, and you just don't want to lose any, and it be the one that hurts for a long time for a lot of people. So
And
those are the things that weigh in my mind when I'm driving the roads at 6 o'clock at night or 5:15 in the morning. I just,
And there were some problems with other school corporations nearby with going to school.
there were, yeah. Some buses hung up, some staff members with their cars in ditches, some students in ditches, and I just,
We don't need that.
we don't need that. It's just not necessary. There's nothing to gain to take that risk, in that moment, so.
And you've agonized and you picture those kids that are gonna have to walk to school in that cold weather and through unplowed sidewalks and stuff, so you're looking out for all of our kids.
Yeah, well, it's important, and people give their stories of when they were young. I walked to school every day from Union Street, here on these streets, because my sisters wouldn't always take me to school when they were over me, but they'd make me walk. But it's different because for whatever reason, sidewalks used to be a little more prepared in my head that I remember. I don't remember kids having to walk on streets like I'd see now. I mean, last night what probably pushed me over the edge is when I was going down Division Street. I had enough room to get my truck through, and there were kids literally standing there behind a car waiting for me to pass by, and I thought, anybody that's reckless in this could really hurt somebody.
Sure.
And we need help with our sidewalks and getting those cleared, there's no doubt. And I don't know what that answer is, I really don't, because it's difficult. So,
Okay. Do you have any more comments?
nope, that's all I have.
All right. Any board comments? Nope, the board is silent. So, since there are no more comments, this meeting is adjourned. Thank all of you for being here.
Hey Wendy, I'll eat your cookie, or I'll eat your cake tonight, okay?
Oh.
German chocolate, I believe, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
I miss you guys.